Learning of Lat Gemara. Today's daf is daf Kuf Mem Tes. Sorry, Kuf Mem Ches. We're continuing the Gemara about Shchiv Merah, person who was on his deathbed, and basically just to remember this rule, as the Gemara will explore it further. There's a difference between a Shchiv Merah who gives away only part of his assets, or he gives it all away. A couple of differences. If a shchivra is giving, it's called a shchivra b'miktzas, giving away some of his assets, then on the one hand, nothing happens unless there's a kinyan that is functional even by a healthy person. It has to be like a matnas bari. It must be a kinyan. If there was no kinyan, no transaction, nothing happened, nothing was transferred. But on the other hand, because there was a kinyan, even if this shchivra recovers, it cannot unravel that kinyan. It's firm and fixed. If the shchimera gives away all of his nechasim, his entire estate, leave nothing for himself, leave nothing behind, then that's the shchimera. And there we say, even if there's no kinyan, just said this is what he said, this and this and this, then we say that you have to follow it through. We concluded yesterday it's a takanas chachamim, and so on. On the other hand, we assess his mind that if he recovers, he never intended to distribute his entire wealth. He still has to survive. So a matna shchivera doesn't require a kinyan. On the other hand, im amad, if he became better, chayzer his charot on the whole thing. And we also learned a while ago that if he does write a star, even a matna shchivera, it's only liyifu koyach, only to help the person out, to have proof, or to have one day in the future if anybody makes any claims. But I'm not making a kinyan with a star, because if he's making a kinyan with a star, even though he's a shchivera, then you want it to be like an ordinary kinyan. Then you have to make a proper kinyan, and if he gets better, he cannot get it back. Okay, so now the Gemara continues. Kuf Mem Ches Amar Aleph. We're about 6 lines into the Gemara. Ibayelahu. Now there's 2 ways of learning the Gemara, and each group of Rishonim says Dava Pasha, that the way I'm learning is the only way to learn. Okay, says the Gemara. We're starting the Gemara. Kum learning about Gemara. Kuf Mem Ches Amar Aleph. Ibayelahu. Have a question like this. Dekel leechad. This person decided he has a palm tree. He gave the tree itself to Reuven, and he says the fruits go to Shimon. What exactly is the case here? So some Rishonim say Adoba Poshet, that the pshat here is we're not talking about a shchimera. It's a continuation of the Gemara we learned yesterday, where we say if I tell somebody you can have the fruits, it's a Dova Shalom Bala Olam. There's nothing to since there are no fruits here, then nothing happens. If I would have said dekil lepeirosav, I'm giving you the palm tree in order that you can take the fruit, even though I'm not giving you the palm tree, then then it's somewhere for the kinyan to grab a hold of. But because I just said fruits, so the question over here is, I said I'm giving away the tree. I'm giving the palm tree to that person. So that therefore definitely means I want to give him the tree itself. And then I turn around and say, but the fruits I'm giving to that person. So do we say because part of what I'm saying right now is definitely going to happen because there's a tree here, then definitely when I said the fruits, I also meant the branches where the fruits go to this person, or the branches for the fruits. So even though I didn't say, but because part of what I'm saying is definitely tangible, the other part is tangible, or not. That's Tosfos and others. The Rashbam says that definitely cannot be pshat, it doesn't belong here, it belongs somewhere else. He says the pshat is from a shchimera, and a shchimera, I gave the palm tree to this person, and I said, when I said I'm giving the palm tree to this person, the fruits are not included. And then I turn around and I say to the other person, and the fruits. If the fruits, I gave the palm tree to this person, then I said, chutz m'peiraisa, and not the fruits, which I didn't really have to say, because if I'm giving just the tree, I'm not giving you the fruits, just give me the tree. And the fruits I'm keeping for myself. Then I'm giving the fruit to somebody else. Do we say as if I give away everything that I had? And if I gave everything away, this is all a matna shchimera, which means I don't need a kinyan, and if I do recover it, I can take it back. Or do we say, I'm keeping the branches for myself, I'm giving this guy the palm tree, that guy the fruits, the branches of myself, so it's a matana b'miktzas. Matana b'miktzas, I cannot change my mind because I kept something for myself. And he must be talking about I gave a star here, so there must be talking about there's a kinyan here, and because if there's no kinyan, then Matna's body doesn't talk about, nothing happened. So it must be talking about a kinyan. But if there's shchimera, you can argue this is yifu koyach. I'm just giving you the star, the kinyan of the star, and giving you the star just to strengthen your position. So it can be either way interpreted. So how do we interpret this? We'll learn the Rashbam's way. I'm giving the treat to this person, and then I say, oh, I change my mind and say, but I'm giving the fruit to the other person. Am I also holding back the branches or not? Now, me shayim makom payday. Am I holding back the branches where the fruits grow out from, and therefore what I gave away is not everything that I have? So it's only a matan of miktas, and if I recover, I don't get it back or not. Allah shayim. As far as we don't know, it's what I'm going to talk about. So this is the only asset that I have. So how do we understand this? Im tim tzolema, and if you're going to tell me la'achar, you can tell me la'achar loy havishir. If you do it for somebody else, no, I'm not holding anything back. I give it all away. I'm giving away the branches, everything. And what about la'atzma? If he's saying, I'm giving you the palm tree, but I'm keeping the fruits for myself. For yourself, you're generally more generous. So are you also keeping for yourself the branches? Yeah. Is la'atzma chutz me'peraisav mahu? Does he hold back the branches as well, and therefore it's only a matana b'mixes? So we say no, he gave the branches away as well. Amar Rava, Amar Nachman. Im timtzuleim. If you want to say, in the case of dekale echa lupeidois of lach loy havishir, I left nothing. Of the makom payday, I did not leave the makom payday for myself. So it's a matana shchibara. But dekale echad v'shayet peidois lefanav, I kept it for myself. Do we say shayim makom payday? I left the branches, and if I left the branches, that means that when I gave the guy the palm tree, the fruits are not in existence. It doesn't bother us. But if I gave the guy a palm tree, I didn't give him everything. So it's only a matana b'miktas, and therefore imamad, if he recovers, he cannot change his mind. My timer, why should it be different between if I give it to somebody else or myself? Because kol legabe nafshe buying you off of Mishayim before already. When it comes to yourself, self-preservation, you always are more generous. If you give away to others, we have machlekes. But for yourself, I'm always more generous. I'm going to Baba Rabashi that this situation you have a Hanan ad Rab Shimon ben Lakish masnimla. Because you're saying, what you're really saying is, because I said chutz pereisav, you didn't have to say chutz pereisav, because anyway, I'm giving just the palm tree. I'm saying the decals for you. I'm not giving you the future fruits. I didn't say that. So therefore, automatically fruits are mine. Why did I have to add chutz pereisav? We already learned elsewhere. So it's going to tell us if you add a line, we even had this in Abakiba as well. If you add a line which is unnecessary, I'm holding back something in addition. So because I said chutz pereisav, I didn't have to. What I really meant was I'm holding the branches for myself as well. The Rababa said to Rabashi, this idea of adding another layer, we actually learned that on Reb Shimon ben Lakish. If I sell you a house, I don't include the roof. The Dieta I don't include, especially with the mic around it. It's like a separate entity. Like we had yesterday, a bias and a aliyah. The aliyah is not included. So if I sell you a house, the roof is not included. So if I sell you the house and I say chutz mediyeta, why do I have to add chutz mediyeta? Anyway, it's not included. So I'm holding back something else. I'm holding back another right that you would have thought is included in the sale, but I'm holding it back, and that is the right to put zizin out, pegs out of the wall to hang my laundry, to do things on those pegs. So by adding chutz mediyeta, I'm adding something in addition, which is the same idea we just said now. Chutz pereisav, I'm holding back the branches. What's the story? So you sell a house to your friend. The opposite is mine. The dieta stays his. So that's what he said. So we ask a question. If I said bayis lechad, so we're talking now about a matnas body. I said I'm selling you the house to this guy. The dieta lechad. So this very question you had before about the shchimah with the dekel, we asked the very same question on this din of the dieta. I'm selling the house to one person, and I'm selling the dieta to another person. Do we say? Me have a shear alloy. Do we say in this case also, since I'm holding back the dieta for somebody else, I'm also holding back that right that he can put, the pegs out of the wall, this leaning on the wall, that he has a right, the airspace over there. He can do things because if he held it for himself, as I said a minute ago, he could. What about if I'm selling somebody else's dieta? Is that right of putting the zizin included or not? Me have a shir because if you want to say bais, but if I said for myself chutz b'dieta mahu, if I already jumped the gun and I told you that he's holding back the for himself, but that's what the Gemara is leading into. So the Gemara is asking, okay, if you sell somebody else, you sell the house to one guy, dieta to somebody else, This guy gets merely the house. This guy does the Yaita. The guy in the Yaita does not have an extra right. Why should he have an extra right? But what about if I'm holding it back to myself? And I said the words chutz mit Yaita, which was totally unnecessary. Because when I sold you the house, you don't get to the Yaita. And this is where this commentary was. If you want to say that if you sold a dieta to somebody else, there's no share. Or the chutz mediyata, if you're saying, if I'm the one who's selling it to you, and I'm saying I'm selling you the house, but not including the roof or above, havi share. Then I'm holding back not just the upstairs because it's unnecessary. I'm also holding back the right to place these in. This follows as the Amar who said that in this case the owner has the right of the ear rights to put those pegs. Alma, what do we see? Keeping the shy is an amishai because he put in there. I'm leaving behind the dieta for myself, and it was totally unnecessary. That means he's also holding back the zizin. Is hachanami go back to our original case? Keeping the Amar chutzim pereisav makam peda shy when he's holding back for himself, and he says apart from the pedas, which is unnecessary. Anyway, I just sold you the deco, and there's no pedas here to talk about, so I'm holding back also the makam pedi. Amar Rab Yosef bar Yumi Amar Rab Nachman. Ashchiv Merasha Kosav, Ashchiv writes, Kol Nechasav Lachedim, which we learned till now, that's considered a matnas Ashchiv Merah. You wrote all your assets away, and therefore you don't need a kinyan. On the other hand, if you recover, you take it all back. There's Royin we say, Im Kimechalik Meis. If it sounds like, he's saying this house is here and this house is there and this property is here, this property is there. It sounds like a person's last will and testament. Then then they're all kana. In other words, because even though there's no kinyan, shrimana and amad, if he recovered, he can change his mind. And we're talking about there must have been a star here, as the Rishonim point out. Because there's no star, the next line is not correct. It says im benimlach. If it sounds like he's making up his mind right now, in other words, he pauses. He says, "Okay, the house should be Reuben's," and then he thinks for a minute. Okay, then and this second house, investment house, should be Shimon's. So it sounds like it's not a matnas shchivin. It sounds like he's giving away matanas. It's a matnas body. Is mace konu kula the koina? Now why the koina? Must be talking about there was a kinyan there. So it must be talking about he's a star. But if we treat him like a shchivin, we'll say the star was leyifu koyach, just to strengthen their position. If it's a matnas body, the star was the kinyan. Ahmad, but if he recovers, Einu Chayzed, he cannot. Why? Because each one is a separate gift, and each one B'Shas Ma'is was a Matam Mixes, because we always had more houses in line. So when I gave you this house at the time, and I didn't think about it, and you see, I wasn't ready to give anything else. So I thought about it. Okay, I'll give also something else. That means at the time it was a matnas body, because only mixes, only part of my assets. But the last person who got my last house, he's a matal shchibra because I have nothing left. So, but when you give away the last house, clearly you believe now you're not going to recover. So that's a matal shchibra. So therefore we say, okay, Ahmad he cannot change his mind because of matal's body. But the last person who's now a matal shchibra, you could, if you recover, you take it back. Freddy Gemara, how do you know? How in the world do you know what's going through his mind? Maybe he's considering each one. Maybe he thought he's dying. His last was he gave away every single property. Maybe from the beginning he thought that. Why do you decide that only the last property is matnas chivmera, and everything else till now he kept back because he thought it was still recovered? Maybe he knew that he was going to pass away. He's distributing, but he's thinking who to get to what, and that's why he's pausing. Okay, I'll give to this person, and so on.
The course is like in one sitting, or is it one day? The next
no, we're talking about I'm talking about all together. There used to be a record when we were growing up. The whole world is Jewish. Yeah, exactly. The whole world is Jewish. Something like exactly. So everything the husband was telling his wife about this and this and this, she argued with him. Finally, then he said, "Tell me who's dying over here." So say, "Look over here." He's thinking. So the Gemara. There's no way that a shchivra, he thinks that he's dying, and he's now going to think what to do with it. He definitely enters his mind a long time before, and he knows exactly how he's going to distribute everything. And therefore, if he's pausing, must be that he doesn't think he's going to pass away. He thinks he's going to still survive, and that's why he's pausing. He's giving away matanas. It's only the last item that he has that he gave away. Now he's a Shchibna. Aber Nachman, you remember Nachman, who wrote all of his assets to other people, and all of it. V'amad, and he recovered. So that's a Shchibna. Now this is a fascinating Gemara. All of a sudden, everything we learned till now, we're going to spin on his head. Till now, we learned that if a Shchibna gives away everything that he has, that's a matter of Shchibna. That's it. You don't need a Kenyan, recovers, he gets it all back. Now the Gemara is saying here, a Shchibna who wrote all of his nechassim to others, Einu Chayzer. Why? Maybe, I don't know if he gave away everything away. Maybe he still owns, you have to have property. Metalton don't count. But maybe he owns a sliver of land somewhere else. And therefore, it's all a matana mixes. It's all a matna's body. And matna's body, im amad, einu chayzer. Pretty much talking about. No, but must listen. The Mishnah, the Tony Loishai, Kaka Koshu, it says clearly in the Mishnah, if he left nothing behind and he recovers, he gets it all back. Suddenly, the Mishnah, which was an open-ended statement, now we have to find when that can apply. We have two answers to the Gemara. Amar Rab Chama says, you know, when we say that it's a matna shchivana, his opening statement has to be, I'm now about to distribute all my assets. He said, I'm about to distribute all my assets, and then he says, Reuben gets this, Shimon gets this, then you know that this is all of his assets. If he doesn't have that opening statement, you don't. The Shem have a hard time understanding. He's a chamurzik, right? And everyone else is a moitzi. So if he gets up and he said, "This is all my assets, I want it all back," isn't he the murzik? So you have a suffering, therefore we're taking it away from him. Because remember, by shchibara, it doesn't take effect till after he dies. So it's not that he already gave it to them, and now he wants it back. So then he's no longer the muhzik. They're the muhzakim, and he's the moitzi. Okay. The vote of the shchibara is, and that's why it's a problem. That's why we have to find a basis for it, because the chayda doesn't take effect till after he dies. You can't give away enkin lachamisa. So we say it's the kazachamim, but we had the sukim the Torah. So what's shot in the Gemara here? But anyway, it's a separate issue. So Rab Chama says the only time that this matna shchibara works is if he starts off, these are all my nechasim. And Bava Basra says only the muhzak on the leslie. We know for a fact he doesn't have any. How many people do you know? We know everybody's business. We know everything that they own. So it's just amazing how we take an open-ended halacha and we reduced it and condensed it to something so small, something so limited. So what do you want to write? Now, we have an aboye chazorah b'mixes. What happens? You gave all your assets to somebody, and then you say, you know what? I changed my mind. I'm going to give you some. I'm going to take some away. How do we understand that changing of mind? And he changed his mind. He said, you know what? I gave you 3 houses. I'm taking one of the houses, and I'm going to give it to somebody else. What about the other 2 houses? When you have a chazorah b'mixes, is that as if chazorah in everything, and therefore you have nothing now? Or do you say, no, when I change my mind, the rest is all right. And mine have come in, because if I change my mind on one house, you get to keep 2 houses, now that's a matana b'mixes. And a matana b'mixes, you're kind of, even if I recover, I can't take it back. Again, we're talking about the Shreya point out that there was a star here. Otherwise, again, it's not what I'm talking about. There was a Kenyan, but if it's Yifu Kayach, or is it the Kenyan? Or do we say, I change my mind and everything, and if you get nothing, anyway. You get nothing because I changed my mind. Take it all back, and we live for daitig and battle daitig. You know what? A shchibana can keep on changing his mind. People change the last will and testament all the time, and he can change his mind. So he boilu chazara b'mixes have chazara b'kula. He changed his mind. Everything. Oilai. Toshma, how couple? Toshma is a reish and a sefer. It says in the reish, first he says, I'm giving everything away to Reuven. And then he changed his mind and he said, you know what? Exactly our case. Shani Kona, the second guy is kind of. The second guy is kind of. Regardless, whether it's considered a matana b'mixes. No, whether we say he changed his mind about, if he changes his mind by the first guy, then the second guy is a matana b'mixes. That's what kind of. Not only is he kind of, if he recovers, he doesn't get back. If we say he did not change his mind by the first guy, he just left him the 2 houses now, and the third house gave the second guy. Then it's a matter of chiyuv. There's nothing left. So the second guy for sure is kind of.
He contradicted his first sight.
Yeah, he changed it. The question is, how do we understand his changing? Completely or just partially? So now, is Abarisha lekana, but it says the first guy is not kind of. And if he only changed his mind on partial, but the other two are still there, why wasn't the first guy kinda? So it sounds like clear from here that he changed everything. My love is talking about Bishop Mace. He died, and then he told me he died. So why didn't the first guy get? He gave him okay 2 houses. He started with 3 and left him with 2. Must be that when he changed his mind, he changed his mind completely. So the first guy has nothing left. What does the first guy have? He changed it completely. He canceled it. Says Loy, no, Raya. Maybe he's talking about Bishop Ahmad. Maybe he's talking about that he recovered. Maybe really Chazara, but mixes is not considered the Chazara. Mixes is not considered Chazara. So why doesn't the first guy? Why isn't the first guy Kaina? You know why the first guy isn't Kaina? Because the first guy is a Matlas Chivera, and Matlas Chivera, if he recovers, he loses out. But the other problem is, which Gemara will conclude later. So how come the second guy is Kaina? If it's a Matlas Chivera and he recovered, the second guy also should lose. And yet it says second guy is Kaina, which is going to prove the conclusion that if a person changes his mind partially, it's a complete changing of mind. So the second guy becomes a matnas body because it's only shkibra b'mixes, and the first guy loses. That's the most conclusion. But right now we're focusing on the first guy. In fact, hochinam estaber. In fact, it makes sense that somebody recovered, and because you recovered, the first guy not koine because you completely canceled. But it says Seifer. It says Miktos and Lerishan, or the other way around. He says he says I'm giving a little bit to the first guy, but kulun l'sheni, and I'm giving everything else to the second guy. So now the first guy is a matana b'mixus, and the second guy is a matana shchivra. I'm giving everything to the second guy. He says over here, rishon kona and sheni le kona. Now, if the guy died, why isn't the sheni kona? Okay, the first guy has a matna's body, but the second guy had a matna shchivra, and yet it said the second guy's not kona. Must be talking about that he recovered. And that's why they recovered. The first guy's in matona b'mixes, and therefore it stays. And the second guy is in matona shchibra, but he recovered. He loses. So it must be talking about a case of Ahmad. So in the Reisha, when it says over there that the first guy is not kain, second guy is kain, it's talking about Ahmad that he recovered, and it must be that when he changed his mind, completely, and therefore the first guy gets nothing, and the second guy is matana mixes. Says the Gemara. He recovered. The second guy's not kind because there was a matna shchimra. He got the left of all the rest of the assets of the shchimra, and the first guy is kind because him is a matana mixes. Eli Amrit b'shemed, he died, and Tavai likna is the shchimra. They both should be kind. Let me say, let's grant you that the way you learn, he recovered. He recovered. Let's go back to the nation. If you can tell me Bishleim Chazara mixes Habi Chazara, if you tell me when he has a partial Chazara, it's a complete Chazara. So therefore the first guy is left with nothing, and the second guy gets the mixes. Okay. Then Bekula Hainu the Shem means kinda. Why the second guy kinda? Because the second guy is what? Is mixes. I gave him a ton of mixes because the first guy I canceled. So what did I give to the second guy? I had 3 houses. I gave the second guy one of the houses. So that was a matana mixes, and the first guy I canceled. So perfect, understand. If you can tell me that a parsha chazara is not a chazara, which means that the first guy kept the 2 houses, and now that he recovered, then nobody should get anything because it's like he gave everything away. 2 to the first guy, 3, the third one to the second guy. It's a mamas and matos chibura. So why im Ahmad? You tell me the first guy lost the 2 houses, okay, but the second guy shouldn't get anything either because everything is a chibura. Is cool. Never he gave it all away. So Gemara concludes, you're right. By a shchivmera, if he changes his mind on part, he changes his mind on everything else. He spells out otherwise. So Reisha, so the first case, the Reisha is talking about Mishkachazla. I don't care if he died. I don't care if he stood up. In both cases, if he died, then they get nothing. If he stood up, so Chazara b'mixes have so I guess Chazara b'mixes have Chazara. So the first guy, I changed my mind, he gets nothing. The second guy, I gave him matana mixes. So therefore, he gets because when I canceled the first guy, it was 3 houses. I kept the third house. I gave to the second guy. Matana mixes is a good matana. if what do you call it? And therefore if he recovered, he does not take it back from the second guy because it's a matana b'miksa, matnas bari. If he died, then the second guy is koine because I gave it to him. The first guy, I still changed my mind. I took it away from him. So either way, the second guy koine manushach, and the first guy is not koine because I canceled the first guy, so he's out of the picture. The second guy, whether it's a matnas body, whether he's recovered, didn't recover, it's a matnas body. He keeps it. Safer, in the safer way, the first guy gets to keep it, and the second guy who gave the rest is not, must be talking about Elokisha Ahmad. He recovered. If he died, he gave the second guy the rest. Why is the second guy kohen as well? So must be talking about that he recovered. So the second guy was a matnas shchibra, but he recovered. But the first guy, when he gave mitzas, was a matnas body, and therefore the first guy keeps it. You have to hold your head over and see. Remember the cases. Ibailu. So now we ask very simple questions. What happens? Hikdish kol nechasav. We said a shchibra you gave away to everybody. That's it. If you recover, you take it all back. What happened? Instead of giving it to everybody, you gave it to the Eibishter. You gave it to Hegdish. Do we save such a holy cause that if he recovers, too bad, it belongs to Hashem? But Ahmad Mao, do we say Kol Legabe Hegdish Gomer Makna in his mind when you give it Hegdish that you're thinking about to pass away, you want to do the last good deed, you give everything you have to charity, or everything you have, we'll see charity later, but everything you have, you give it to Hegdish. Even though it's a very nice thing, but it's self-preservation always comes first. In fact, we learned you're not allowed to, otherwise you'll be in a scrap heap yourself. so anyway, this is up. Or what happens? He didn't make a haggish. He said, I don't own anything anymore. Since I poor people there as well, which is very involved with charity and everything else. Hefke, remember, behold, not like Besham, behold, Besil, and Hefke has to be Lani to everybody. And therefore, we had Hamaniach. So therefore, he said he made up his mind, and even if he recovers, too bad. What about Kolachazim? He gave it only to the poor. Okay, in the case of Hefke, poor, rich, he gave it all to the poor. Do we say mi amrin tzedakah vade migmagomer makni? So even though by Hegdish we might say you can change your mind, but tzedakah people feel even more inclined to give it away. Teiku remains a question. Amar Rav Sheshes. Quickly, Rav Sheshes says, Yitol. If you use these words, Shchibna is using these words. He said, Yitol, let him take it. Yizke, let him be zoichin all my assets. The Yachzik, let him make a chazak in my assets. The Yikne, all of these different expressions. Kul and Lashem Atanen. All these expressions of a Shchibna giving it away. The Masnid in the Braisi we learned, even the use of the words af yachsin v'yoded, words that you should become the owners of my assets, you should yasha my assets. When do those words work? Only b'ro l'yosha, only if it's somebody that you have 5 sons and you said to this one son, I want you yarton. And this follows your break. If you remember, he said before that within those who are ro l'yosha, you're allowed to give more to one than to the others. Iboilu, what happens if he says yehena bahu mai? If he says you should have hana from it, what do we say then? The never kula matana kamar? Did he mean that I'm giving it away to you? He said, I want you to have pleasure from it. Instead of saying, I'm giving it to you, I'm gifting it to you, he said, I want you to have pleasure from my house. Does pleasure mean I want you to look at the windows through the windows of my house, or does he mean I'm giving you the house? The never kula matana kamar? Did he mean I'm giving it to you? He's just saying, enjoy a little bit. He says, look at it. Yamad ben Mao, standing there. Yishib ben Mao, Lina Mao. How do we understand all of these expressions? Because remember, he's talking about he's dying. So even though his words are not so clear, maybe that's what he meant, that you should have it. Or he knows exactly what he's saying. If he says either, he's maybe taunting him. Yeah, see the beautiful badge, you always wanted it? Look at it. Teiku, remain with the question. Okay, we'll stop. Please tomorrow. Have a good day.